Well, hello, 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 and welcome back for another episode of the Summer Spotlight 2020. I am your host, Gayle Nicholson. So good to see you today. How you doing? If you are watching on Facebook, I'm surprised. Facebook is changing things up. I'm not sure if this is going to be out there live on Facebook, but we will make sure that it gets put up there later. Definitely, if it's not. So if you're watching, tell me in the comments, like, heart, replay, whatever the case may be. And if you're watching on on YouTube, please subscribe. We are growing. I am so excited to see how much we have expanded since March, and we'd love to have you along for the ride. So, thank you again for for joining us today. I would like you to help me welcome this gentleman who is doing an awful lot of good work in the veteran community, and I'm very, very excited to help him tell you all about what he's got going on. So please help me welcome Mr. Jason McClaren, Managing Director of GoHeroes.org and LeadershipLoading.com. Thank you so much for being here today, Jason. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm honored to have you. Very, very pleased with what you're doing over there with GoHeroes.org. Why don't we begin by having you tell me just a little bit about what you guys do over there?
So, Go Heroes, I started that back in 2013, kind of as a offshoot of my experience from leaving the military and separating from the military. My story is that I had about 20 days from the day I was told I was separating from the military until I was walking off the base. So not a lot of transition time there, as you can imagine. And when I was in the military, I was in the Air Force as a firefighter, and so that's what I thought I was going to do when I got out. But I learned quickly that my skills didn't directly translate to the civilian sector. And so, kind of the drive to start Go Heroes was to kind of fill that gap. There's a lot of programs out there, but there's always room for more, especially with how many veterans we have entering the civilian sector every day. And so, that was kind of one of our things is to get out there, fill that gap, and help with civilian transition, resume writing, interviewing skills, that sort of thing. And it's kind of grown from that to kind of my background with the emergency preparedness. And we know there's a lot of organizations out there that do emergency response. So we're kind of focused on the emergency preparedness, trying to help small businesses, veteran-owned businesses, and those type of organizations get prepared for these type of emergencies, especially what we're going through now with coronavirus. And then we have a few other small things out there like community projects. If someone wants to help a community with like a veteran type project or first responder type project, we want to help them make sure everything is by the book, or that any kind of memorial type ceremonies or anything like that is really up to par and following all the guidelines and that sort of thing. So kind of in a nutshell, that's what we do.
Nice. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. One of the things, though, that you said kind of caught my brain, and I got a little hooked on it. You would think that coming out of the military as a firefighter, that would have adequately prepared you to go into the civilian sector as a firefighter. But you say that it didn't. Is it that the techniques and the tools that the Army uses to put out fires is slightly different, or how did that fall apart for you?
Kind of. We have so you have certifications is really what the problem was is all my certifications in the military were international certifications. Well, not all states accept those right straight from the book. And so, for example, I moved to Texas, and they will take those, but you have to what they call challenge the test. So you have to take the Texas test and challenge their test to get that certification. You don't necessarily have to go through all the schooling again, but you have to challenge that test to make sure that you can know the stuff still, right?
Mm-hmm.
The problem is the test. I believe when I was doing it was $75 or something like that, and I had 15 of these certifications. So you can imagine that was a big chunk of change I would have had to come up with to challenge this test for something that might not lead to a career, because once you get those certificates, you're not guaranteed a job anywhere.
Wow.
The other issue I had was at the time you were having 100 people apply for every open position. I'm not sure what the numbers are now because I've kind of got out of that, but you have 100 people vying for a spot, for a single spot. And at the time I didn't have any kind of training on interview skills, any kind of course, going for a firefighter, you don't need a resume. Usually you're going through a civilian service test where you take a test, you do a board interview, chief interview, background check, and then you get in the door.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of all that built up, and it kind of led to me having to pursue other careers, and that's what kind of led to my emergency preparedness background now.
Well, I realize and I can see that it must have been a very frustrating process for you to go through to make that decision. But in the end, I'm glad that that decision's made because Go Heroes is really doing a lot to help people right now in a way that you might not have been able to help as a firefighter. Your impact might have been a little bit more limited than what you're doing with Go Heroes, and Go Heroes is doing some great stuff. So tell me how the leadership loading piece came out of Go Heroes.
Definitely. So obviously with the nonprofit, you're vying for to get the message out, and so we found that we were always trying to do these social events. We were going to different shows and car shows or veteran events and putting up a booth and that sort of thing. And that's fine. And you're able to get out and shake hands and kind of get your mission out there. But we wanted a way digitally to have some kind of platform and some kind of organized structure on how to get the message out there, but also bring people in that we may not have connection with all the time. So, for example, so leadership loading is a podcast, and it's exactly what it is. We're loading leadership into these minds of these veterans and first responders and trying to get them to that next level. And it's all about building you up, either for your new career or stepping up in your career. And all the people that come on the show are either change leaders, coaches, CEOs, COOs, that type of level person that's been through what you're going through or been through a similar issue, and they're able to speak to it. And so the platforms out there, we do about a 20-minute show and bring that person on, get that knowledge out of them, load it into the listeners' ears.
Nice, very nice. I like that a lot. So, what kind of guests have you had on leadership loading, and how has that experience been for you doing that?
It's been mind blowing. You know, like I said, the guests we get are everywhere from CEOs down to life coaches, that sort of thing. And we've had guests on there, veteran mind hacking experts. We've had behavioral experts. Dr. Benjamin Hardy's been on there. Uh, a veteran named Sean Douglas has been on there. Excellent guy. All these guys are experts in their field, experts in transitioning your life and in making you able to make that next step. And so we have on our website, you can go in there, if you meet one of those criteria and fill it out and get on the show, and we're able to get your message out there, get your tools out there, and help these veterans, first responders, anyone looking to make that next step in their career and excel at what they're doing.
Excellent, excellent stuff. Now, specifically speaking, like who would benefit beside? I mean, obviously, veterans who are transitioning into civilian life would benefit very much from watching the success stories of other people who have done so and made an impact. But who else specifically would get a lot of benefit, do you think, out of your show?
Yeah. So yeah, veterans and first responders are obviously our core, and that's only people really that come on the show, unless they have a really key message. Uh, but yeah, anyone can listen. It's an open podcast. So anyone that's looking to step up, I've worked with people that they're on that frontline job and they don't have that self-esteem or that charisma or whatever they need to get to that next level.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is a way for them to kind of listen to what other people are doing out there, what challenges they have faced, and see what exactly people in those positions do.
Mm-hmm.
For example, right now, a big hot topic is situational leadership. And a lot of people in leadership roles have not been through any kind of training on this. So that's one of the next things we're going to do, as far as we've done these little mini series, and we're going to have people on that have been through that or coached those kind of trainings. And we're able to put that out there so that, if you're trying to go through and lead these people, lead your troops or lead your staff in different areas, you're going to be able to understand why people act the way they do and why they respond to different inputs. So, for example, if someone is being trained on a task and they're not doing very well,
Hmm.
that's something you need to be able to adapt to, and adapt to that situation, and build your leadership style around that. So
Awesome.
these are all tools I've had to talk to these people about and kind of mentor them, and it's just a lot broader concept with this podcast. So
Gotcha. Gotcha. So it sounds like, one of the things that came to mind while you were talking is that especially middle managers would really benefit from watching some of this stuff. Because, if you've got a team of 6 people and you've got one person that's just not picking up what you're laying down and the way you're laying it down, you need to know how to adapt to that one thing to get the job done,
mm-hmm.
right?
Definitely,
Yeah.
you know, in the military we get pretty much a broad paint with a broad brush. Basically, you've got an element or a platoon or a squadron, and if you're leading that, you're kind of giving them orders and they kind of fall in line, and do what they need to do. But they've been instilled with that.
Mm-hmm.
You may have a team when you get out that's your veteran guy's been there 15 years and your new guy is just hired, and so you're going to have a lot of different variances on how you're training them. But things move a lot rapider, at a lot more rapid pace at corporate level, especially if you're having to do daily operations. As far as my background's in higher education facilities, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's tasks that have to be accomplished, daily, weekly, and all these people have not had the same amount of training going into that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it can make things very challenging, can't it? Now, what can people do to help support and get Go Heroes message out there so that you can expand your reach and do more good work in the community around you? How can we help you?
So we're always looking for volunteers, obviously, and our goal is to kind of have a captain or a chief in each state that can be our boots on the ground there and help us get out there either in person or virtually. And especially now, how we've learned to manage everything virtually with coronavirus, it's a good resource for someone, especially active duty military, that's just wanting to help out and be that resource in the community. So that's one way. Obviously, if you fit any of those criteria we talked about, upper management, C-level management, coming on the podcast and spreading your message, um, and then obviously monetarily, we have a donate button on the homepage. All that goes straight into the fund. No one in our team is paid. We have no paid staff. Everything goes into operating the organization, and operating the website, operating the podcast, and so it's all 100% into the operation.
Nice, very nice. That's really awesome stuff. Now, where are you going next with all of this? What's on the future plate for GoHeroes.org?
Obviously, putting out more resources. We've got a guide on the website. It's a free guide. Uh, and then we're doing a lot of what they call fiscal sponsorships now. So with the increase since 2017 in police officer deaths, firefighter deaths, we wanted to have a way for people that want to help to get out there on the nonprofit side. For example, when the Dallas police officer shooting happened, there's 5 police officers were shot. People wanted to help, so they were making T-shirts, they were making bumper stickers. Well, they're trying to sell these. Well, then you're basically incorporating a small business. The way we work is we can go with them, partner up. They can work under our umbrella, and we will sell those products for them. And then it's all under the nonprofit umbrella, and they don't have to worry about all the business logistics stuff. So we're growing that branch of our organization, trying to once again get people in different states, different counties, and get that message out to people that are trying to help but don't want to do all the business side.
Gotcha. So, just so I can wrap my head around this, right now, what you're offering people is, or people who want to help, right? And maybe they've created a T-shirt design or a
Mhm.
hat design or something like that, and they don't want to do a whole store. They don't want to do a whole website themselves. They don't want to become a business. They just had a great idea and they want some place to share that idea with others. They can come to you and put that product in your store, and you'll take care of all the business part of it and split the profit between the nonprofit and themselves, correct?
It would be 100%. They'd have to be 100% into the cause,
Oh,
if that
okay.
makes sense. So, for example, if a police officer passed away. I know just recently a police officer passed away, and people were taking his last radio call and digitizing it and putting it on a shirt.
Mm.
The first question anyone's going to ask is, where's that money going?
Mm-hmm.
So we're able to provide that nonprofit organization that's going to hold that and make sure that money is going to a good cause and it's not going into somebody's personal bank account. And then we're trying to justify, okay, well, where's that money going after that? That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It sounds like a lot more secure than GoFundMe anymore.
Yeah.
Definitely. Awesome stuff. So, wow, this is really, really amazing. Now, I have it on good authority that you've got another podcast too, right? Disaster show. Now, let me ask you first of all, before we get into the disaster show one, the Leadership Loading podcast, where can people find that? Where is it hosted at?
Leadershiploading.com is the direct link to it. It's based on the goheroes.org page. Once you get there, you can check out all the past episodes, show notes, that sort of thing. We've got our free guide on there, 11 steps to dynamic leadership. And so you can, if you're in that realm where you're trying to go to the next step, it's a 11-step guide where you can kind of pick your own brain and kind of get those questions out there that you've been trying to ask yourself and jot down some notes. It's kind of like a leadership journal. Mm-hmm. And then when you're listening to the show, you can kind of say, okay, well, this is how I would answer that question now that I'm, trying to get into that leadership role.
Nice. All right. So the new show, or I don't even know if it's newer or not, but the other show, this show is a disaster podcast. I love that. Tell me all about it.
Yeah. So when coronavirus started, I had a little bit more free time. So obviously doing podcasts, I was able to branch off, and I had a lot of people, being that I'm in the emergency management sector and healthcare sector, I had a lot of people ask me questions about coronavirus and what's the deal? Why is everybody getting different messages? So instead of trying to answer them all individually, I launched the podcast as a short format, informal podcast. It's the first 3 or 4 episodes were recorded on my phone as I was, sitting in my car waiting for a meeting or something. Mm-hmm. And then I brought everything into the regular studio. So, but yeah, I had guests on there also I was able to pick their brains on different safety and security and emergency preparedness issues. And that's kind of what the show revolves around. Mm-hmm. Rather than being a coaching type show, it's more of a knowledge show where we're just getting that business continuity type stuff out there. A lot of the shows are just me talking, and so it's not an interview show like Leadership Loading is. But like I said, I have had guests on there that are subject matter experts in their field. That one, we did the last episode because it got so busy with coronavirus. And so we kind of put it on dark right now on hold because we trying to juggle 2 podcasts and all the coronavirus. We kind of went over our head. Mm-hmm. But all the other episodes are out there for you to listen to, and we may bring it back in the future once everything slows down.
Phenomenal. I love that idea, that whole concept. So let's talk a little bit about the coronavirus. And to the best of your ability, tell me where the United States mucked up as far as containing or maintaining calm amongst the citizenry during this entire pandemic scenario.
Okay. So for my non-clinical, I'm not a clinical person, so as far as why the virus mutates or why it's spreading the way it does, I'm not the person on that. But I believe on the preparedness side, which is where my expertise is obviously we weren't prepared for it. And there's different rumors on, it snuck in, China didn't tell us, that sort of thing. And obviously it hit the coast first. We got hit in Washington State first, and then obviously New York, where a lot of travel is coming in. Once all that happened, I'm in the Texas area, so we all ramped up and we were getting prepared, and everybody's scrambling for PPE. And we were actually pretty prepared. We had enough stockpile. We'd done all our numbers and figured that we were good to go. Well, then nothing happened, right? Texas was pretty slow for a long time. Well, then all those people that were traveling to the coast had made their way to the middle United States, and then now we had our ramp up back in July and early August. So now we're going down, and our numbers are going down. But that's why you've always got to be prepared. And actually, uh, next month, September, is National Preparedness Month. And so part of my company, what we're doing, we roll out a campaign every year. And so we'll be doing social media posts on everybody. Okay, have your plan, build your kit, all that kind of stuff, so that when something like this happens, you're not reacting to it. And I think that's what our problem was as a whole country, is we were just reacting.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody got comfortable. We all figured, oh, well, healthcare, we got a state of the art healthcare system. We got, all these antibiotics, uh, vaccines, that sort of thing. And we get a little too comfortable. If you look at China, they've been wearing masks for 10s, 15s of years.
Mm-hmm.
And because they've seen this kind of stuff before. We just got comfortable. We don't like wearing masks. And so it spread faster than we thought it would. And now you're seeing people start to get mask fatigue. They don't want to wear the mask. They don't want to, they're saying well, it doesn't do anything because it's just a fabric mask. And they've, done studies that prove, yes, it does. Even though it's just a piece of fabric, when you sneeze or cough into that, it's better than sneezing or coughing into the normal air.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got friends that are super anti-mask, and I just, I go with the studies. So I hope that answers that question.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. We are a defiant society, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we here in Arizona, we're seeing. Nationwide, they're telling us that Arizona is seeing a real spike in the numbers and stuff like that as well. And I maintain it's because Arizona is still the Wild West. We carry our guns on our belts. You have to have a license to hide it.
Right.
And we've been wearing bandanas around our necks for hundreds of years. So go figure. That,
right.
But there has been an interesting pattern to all of it. And one of the things that I think is part of what you were talking about, part of our downfall, is that we have this system in America of just-in-time shipping, right? Like the truck is going to pull up to Target just when the last, thing of toilet paper is off the shelf, and then they offload the truck right onto the thing, and the warehouse stays empty. And that, I don't think, really serves us in the nature of preparedness, as we see what happens when those trucks can't get through and things that we're expecting from out of the country are being held and vaccinated to, however you vaccinate inanimate objects. We have a COVID mitigation center about a half a mile from our house, which is just on the edge of an airport that comes into Goodyear. So I imagine a lot of the things that are getting shipped into Goodyear on planes are being offloaded there and inspected before they're allowed to be delivered to the stores. So hopefully little things like that will make the rest of this as short-lived as possible.
Definitely. I actually did an episode on the disaster show. This show's a disaster podcast on just-in-time shipping and why we didn't have masks in stock when all this happened.
Gotcha. Well, definitely want to watch that one. Definitely. All right, my dear. Well, do you have any final thoughts for our guests today?
That's all. Check out the show. Check out the goheroes.org. That's Go Heroes, Heroes. A lot of people spell it wrong, but check it out. Like I said, we're 7 years old. We're only 7 years old, so we're still learning things and tweaking everything. And be prepared. Like I said, National Preparedness Month this month. So be prepared, build your plan, or make your plan and build your kit, and be ready for what's next, because we're just entering hurricane season, and then next thing you know, we'll have blizzards and all the other stuff that comes throughout the year.
Yeah. Good advice. Thank you again for being here, and hope you guys have a great week. And if you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm more than happy to support you any way I can. Awesome.
Definitely.
Thanks. Take care, everybody. When you open yourself up, recovery progresses so much faster. That recovery is possible. You do not have to live as a victim until your last days. You have unbelievable strength, and I know that because you're still here. Do you want to create something completely unrecognizable with your life? I can show you how.